Hey guys, welcome back to Yagi, where I share my audiophile journey, experience, and story in audio. So today I'm going to share with you my time with the Klipsch 8000F Mark II loudspeakers. And if you remember, I reviewed the original 8000F from Klipsch 2 years ago. Man, it's been a while, eh? So the thing is, few disclaimers here. My room has changed significantly, to say the least, since 2 years ago. So that's natural. I've made my listening space better for acoustics, presentation-wise, and everything. So a lot of time and effort went into it. Second of all, obviously, a lot of speakers under $2,000 came out since then that I reviewed in my space that is really high performance for the dollar. So the question is the 8000F Mark II still within competition in terms of performance and sound quality, or has it really kind of fallen off? So when Klipsch approached me to review the 8000F Mark II, that was a question going into it. I was curious. I'm like, has Klipsch made the Mark II so much better to where the competition now still makes sense? And this price category is under $2,000. The tower speakers are $900 each, $1,800 US. So it makes sense, right? To ask that question. Is it worth it to get the Klipsch 8000F Mark II versus every other speaker that I've praised, like the KLH candles, Poke. So many speakers in this price category now that is high performance and a lot of choices, which is good for us. Now, when I brought these speakers in, set it up, I give it the immediate Klipsch treatment, which means I didn't have them set up directly towed into my ears or toe in at all, actually. I towed them directly out towards the room. And I had them about 4 feet initially. That changed, but we'll talk about that later. I brought it up 4 feet from the wall behind it. Now this way, I had a very good reference point. Now, not to mention, I knew that Klipsch has a reputation for being a little bit bright, and with my past experiences with Klipsch speakers, I knew that I had to have a smooth, liquid-sounding tube amplifier or low-powered amplifier. Something like a 1st watt or the Willsenton. Now, I didn't have the 1st watt in hand, so I tried with the new Willsenton 300B. Now, I've been working on the Willsenton 300B review, and I already knew that this tube amplifier was a great choice with Klipsch because of that natural warmth in the mid-range and the high frequency, smoothness. And voila, I was right. It sounded amazing with that pairing. Now, I'm really happy to report that this pairing is something a little bit more than exceptional in my books when it comes to synergistic match, because I tried other amplifiers like Class A, and Denafrips and RVX and solid states and, NAD and all that stuff that I have here. But man, that was the best pairing. I even tried it with the light magnetic, which was pretty darn good, but the 300B Willsenton for much less money was just simply a better pairing with the 8000F Mark II specifically. So if you're looking for an amplifier pairing for music, this is a good choice. Now we'll get into home theater a little bit later because I do have a pairing recommendation for that as well. But let's talk about the sound. Is this still relevant in terms of performance? Now, keep in mind that I set these speakers up and experimented with it and had the right amplifier pairing. So this is my journey, my story, okay? So I had these speakers up 4 feet from the wall behind it, but I found the bass to be quite lackluster. I found it to be lacking in extension, especially because it has 2 woofers, I think about 8-inch or something like that, 6-inch, 8-inch woofers, and dual ports in the back, and it's a tower speaker. You would expect some bass out of that, but not much. I would say you get mid-bass, but you don't get much sub-bass. So it's a little bit disappointed, and I put into account the fact that it's 4 feet from the wall behind it, so I decided to put it a little bit closer to the wall. So now I had it about 2 feet from the wall. A little bit less than 2 feet. I was 1.8, something like that, right? And immediately I got more bass energy. Not extension, but just more mid-bass punchiness, dynamics, and a little bit more warmth in the mid-range. And overall, I found it to be quite adequate. Now, I would still add a subwoofer if I'm looking for a full extension. Now, coming back here a little bit, I've been reviewing a lot of bookshelf speakers and towers that's mostly point source, DIY, affordable range, and stuff like that. Going back from high-end, used, etc. But I haven't really touched horn speakers in a while. And if you know me, I like horns. One of my favorite speakers of all time is the JBL R300, and that was my main speakers for a very long time. So I missed that scale that is brought to the table, and I almost forgot about the horn scale, the holographicness that it brings to the table. And then I set these speakers up and I immediately got it, the scale. And it kind of dawned on me. This is why some people love Klipsch speakers. Yes, they're great rock and roll speakers if you want to, bob your head and really feel the zing and stuff like that. But not only that, it's the scale. It's nothing really like it unless you go for a full horn system. And that's why this speaker is so valuable, because for a full horn speaker, as you guys may know, it can get quite expensive, because they have to be big and their horns and intrusive to, modern living spaces. It's not ideal for everyone is all I'm saying. So for someone that wants a horn speaker, but in a little bit more modern package, a little bit more minimalistic, maybe not a gigantic horn intruding into their living room and stuff like that, for much less money, right, compared to a full horn speaker, this is it. This is a good choice. And especially if you pair it up with something like the Willsenton R300B, now you get a holographic, smooth soundstage. And even for a Klipsch speaker, I find the Mark II to be a little bit more balanced than the Mark I. Meaning, yes, there's still a little bit more treble emphasis than the mid-range and the bass, but it's not by much. And when you pair it up with a Willsenton R300B amplifier, now you're talking. Now it sounds smooth on the top frequency to where even for me, I find it pretty darn good and not that bright. Still, you get a little bit more zing on the top end, but it's not something that you get ear fatigued listening to it. In fact, I had no problem listening to it on hours on end, to the system. And having them about 2 feet from the wall behind the speakers and having them towed out towards the room, I can't help but think that Klipsch maybe on purpose designed the speakers to sound best in this position, because that's usually how people set it up in their entertainment room and so on. And audiophiles sometimes look down on Klipsch because they've been around for a while and you can see them in Best Buy and stuff like that. But you can see Polk speakers in Best Buy, and you've seen their Reserve series and they're excellent. And I kind of put them in the similar category now because performance-wise, yes, I would say Polk is more balanced and, there's, better performance choices if you're looking at performance alone, meaning better imaging, better separation, being able to depict little things, detail, more balanced sound. Yeah, there are better speakers for that. But that's not what you get Klipsch speakers for. Klipsch has something that none of these other speakers do, and that is the horn presentation. And especially because the Mark II now has a wider Tactrix horn, meaning a bigger horn, or a waveguide. It's not a real horn, it's a waveguide. I get it. But it does what horn speakers do, meaning it gives you a scale and holographicness and that dispersion pattern that you really don't get under $2,000, with other speakers. So it does have that characteristic that you really wouldn't find, let's say, with a GR Research DIY kit, or even CSS Audio DIY kit, or Polk, or Q Acoustics, or whatever, right? You get the point. So yes, there's much better choices in terms of performance alone. I agree with you, and you're gonna get a bunch of comments like that. But even as an audiophile, even as someone who has heard all these speakers, I see the beauty in the Klipsch speakers. Is it particularly something that I love? I like the scale, but I don't like that little bit more, high frequency excitement, right? I don't like that in your face presentation. And that's why I like the Mark II, because the Mark I still found a little bit too forward for my personal liking in my space, especially during that time. But with the Willsenton R300B and with the proper placement and such, this speaker rocks. It just simply does. For under $2,000, if you're after that horn presentation, this is a great speaker, in my opinion, in all honesty. Now, in terms of home theater, this is where it really takes the cake. Again, I can't help but not be too critical on the bass of the Klipsch 8000F, because maybe they were concentrating more on the sensitivity of the speaker instead of the bass extension, because they knew that most people would be using a subwoofer for their home theater system. Because yes, Klipsch is also known to be in many home theater systems. So you can even get a Dolby Atmos module for the speaker. And also, if you have it in a home theater situation and have a subwoofer, yeah, bass extension is no problem. Plus the fact that this speaker has really crisp dialogue. So if someone asks me, what is the good speaker, not the best, but a budget friendly speaker that is great for both music and home theater, well, this is a great choice, because like I said, not only is it crisp for dialogues in movies, but it has enough capabilities for a great music system, for a stereo system, especially if you're willing to have the Willsenton R300B to add that little bit more holographicness and smoothness for the top end. Now, if you're in a home theater situation, another great choice is the Onkyo receiver, which was basically designed for Klipsch. It has settings to whichever Klipsch speaker you have, and you can dial in the settings in the Onkyo. So it's a receiver for home theater, but also you can kind of use it for a 2-channel as well. But when I used it, I do have a mixed feeling about it. So when I use it, it's not the best for music, but for movies and stuff like that, it's certainly great. And we'll talk about that in a later video, focused more on the home theater section of Klipsch. But I have also the 600M Mark II, and that's an interesting one, especially if you add a subwoofer with it, which I will talk about more in a future video. So a lot of spoilers, but the Onkyo with the 8000F is a still viable choice if you're under budget and if you're going for that 2-channel plus home theater setup. Now, if it's solely for music, I still recommend the Willsenton R300B. That was my favorite. And that's pretty much it for this speaker. I mean, for all it's worth, I have to say that even after hearing all these other speakers that's really great in performance, I still find that horn sound to be exciting and dynamic, and the scale, and it's different. It's a fun speaker. It's not a point source speaker or a neutral speaker or a studio speaker or a DIY speaker for less money or stuff like that, but it still has that something that these other speakers don't. And I enjoyed it to the fullest, especially with that Willsenton R300B pairing, which just happened to align, arrive around the same time. And I just knew that I had to pair up with it because the sound signature was just a perfect match. So that's pretty much it from me. I have some very interesting speakers and amplifiers coming up for review, so I can't wait to share that with you guys. So make sure to subscribe so you won't miss it. And also click on that bell notification so you really don't miss it and get to it right away. And if this video was helpful to you, make sure to click that like button. It does help my channel out with the YouTube algorithm and stuff like that, share and all that stuff. So I'm really grateful when you guys do that. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Until next time.